Good morning and welcome to the first ever Symposium for Research Administrators. You're going to meet Melanie Hebel just a little bit later in the day if you haven't already. But Melanie, who's walking around tending to details, is the person who put together a committee that's planned this whole event. And I just want to say thank you so much for making this possible. We really appreciate it. So my name is Kim Moreland. I'm in research and sponsored programs. I'm sorry if I haven't met you, but I hope that I can before the day is over, because we're going to spend today talking about what it means to be a research administrator at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, one of the great research universities in the world. I'm always thrilled to be in a room with research administrators, because you are the people who understand what I'm talking about most of the time. All right. I could lose you in a bit, but you understand about the tensions that exist that are inherent in the work we do. We have a dual mission as research administrators. The first of those is to facilitate, to help our faculty do what they need to do in order to commit themselves to science and produce greater science. The other side of that is the regulatory side that comes with our need to be sure that we're following rules and regulations that are proliferating at the speed of light. That duality creates a kind of delicate balance, and that balance shifts and sways depending on what our customers need. Now, who are our customers? You all know as well as I, because you're on the front lines in much of this. We have first sponsoring agency, those people who do write the rules, and if they write the rules and we take their money, we're subject to their rules. We've got other collaborating institutions, that vast array of people who are getting money from us or giving money to us in the form of a subaward. We have all of us in this room because we all talk to each other, we work together, we collaborate, we might say, in this morning in order to do the work that needs to be done. All of this is subject to the proliferation of federal mandates regarding the conduct of research and the administration of research. In the last 10 years, those have bloomed like wildfire, and we're struggling to stay abreast of them. They require that we provide new information, greater data, additional services, and all of that requires more resources in order to get those sponsored programs dollars that support our faculty. For that, we rely on each other to do the work that has to be done. For that, there is also, I just want to point out, a national dialogue that's occurred in many settings regarding the impact of administration and the requirements of administrative burden that affect the quality of science being done by the research community. We're trying to help that. In RSP, we have sort of three goals for this year that I'll point out. One is to strengthen financial compliance, because the threat of audit is always at our door. The second is, let's improve both our services and the timeliness of those, so that we can help you meet your own requirements that come from your research community. And the third of those is to enhance both human and electronic systems so that what we can do more easily and more effectively. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. This is a true story, although you're going to think I made it up. I went to Colorado State University last week to talk about audit, and maybe that just played with my mind, but I had a dream one night. And I don't know why I even remembered this one, but I'm going to share it with you. I dreamed I was in a big rush, and I was running through this large department store in Fort Collins. And there before me in the shoe department was a pair of pink sandals. Now, I don't even like pink, let me be clear about that. No criticism for those of you who do. There was this pair of pink sandals screaming my name. So I went up to the clerk and I said, look, I'm kind of in a rush, but do you have those in my size? Could I try them on? And she said, sure, we'll get them from the stockroom and bring them in. So this other clerk appears with a beautiful black box, had a pink bow around it. Where the pink came from, I don't know. I opened it, it's full of tissue paper, and inside the tissue paper was a pimento cheese sandwich on white bread. And I said, okay, there must be a misunderstanding. I was really looking for pink sandals. And she said, oh, our mistake, we'll get those for you. So I swear I dreamed this. They go back to the stockroom, they come out with another box, I open it, there's tissue paper. This time it's tuna salad on whole wheat. The point of this story is you don't always get what you think you're going to get. I think there's a song about not getting what you want, in fact. In research administration, that's reality. Every day I open that black box on my desk and I'm hoping to find 100% of our effort reporting cards on time and accurate. Call me foolish. I bet many of you open that box and you expect to see all of the proposals from your department submitted 7 days in advance of the deadline. We don't always get what we expect. And the reason that we're here together is to map out a plan for getting more of that, more of the time, by working together. So, I want to say, perhaps it's a guilty pleasure. Some people watch the Real Housewives of Omaha, but I get a kick out of research administration, and I hope some of you do too. And it's because it is full of surprises and it is always challenging. But I would not want to be the only research administrator in town because it would be impossible. None of us can do our jobs alone. It takes a village or a community collaborating together to provide the services that we need at UW-Madison. It's impossible to turn a pimento cheese sandwich into pink sandals if you're working by yourself. So, think about those sandals. We're moving on to someone who's going to be perhaps slightly more lofty than pink sandals. I am so pleased to introduce to you Lauren Heller, the new Vice Chancellor for Finance and Administration at Madison. He's been here, 15 minutes, I think. He came to us from the University of California at Berkeley, where he was responsible for financial planning, budget, and analysis. Before that, he was at Harvard, involved in something called the Civil Rights Project that merged together social science research and policy advocacy. I heard that at Harvard, he was actually involved in managing a research grant. I don't know that that's true. I also heard that he came to Madison carrying with him 2 motorcycles, and that might be his guilty pleasure. What I have not heard is whether those are Harleys or not, in which case we could be really proud. Perhaps Lauren will tell us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kim, for that fantastic intro. Okay, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be able to meet some of you folks and get a chance to talk to you here today. As Kim points out, I have been here for all of 15 minutes, so I will use all of that extensive experience as I address your various questions and concerns. The number one question I've got so far in those 15 minutes has actually been, how do I pronounce my name? So I figure I'll just go ahead and give you this story now so that we can spare some time later. So if you're French, like my grandmother Jacqueline, or our Dean Francois of the business school, I'm Laurent. But I am the most born in Kansas Frenchman you're ever likely to meet, so I try not to do that. I usually go with Lauren, just Lauren. When I was younger, I lived in Texas, actually, and there in Texas, sometimes the drawl would turn it into low rent. I will draw the line at low rent. That does not work. Lauren does work. So research has had a lot to do with my background. I've worked in research areas much of my life. I actually started my career in a biotech manufacturing startup, generating reagents and kits that researchers would use in labs, and we sold extensively to universities. But from there, I did go to a largely irrelevant university in Cambridge, Mass., whose name was mentioned earlier, where I did work for the Civil Rights Project, which was a really cool research organization. And I'd actually started there as an IT person. They brought me in to be a database administrator. And in the middle of doing that job, it turned out that they actually needed someone to help them manage their grants and put together the budget. And as it turns out, that's hard. Many of you know this. And it was actually a fantastic way for me to get introduced to sort of university finance and financial management. We had about 40 grants at any one time and needed to string together the operating budget for like a 40-person research center across all of these grants. And I don't need to tell you guys, that's very complex work. People in the outside world think that, investment banking is difficult, say, or finance is really complex. They don't know anything compared to what we deal with here at a university. Try dealing with NSF. You think investment banking is hard. So a teeny bit more about me and my backstory. Harvard and the Civil Rights Project was back in the day. For the last 12 years, I worked at UC Berkeley, where I was ABC for Financial Planning and Analysis most recently, but prior to that, had been budget director for the campus, and prior to that, worked at the law school, where I did institutional research and eventually finance stuff. So I have worked at sort of all levels of the university, and have walked a mile in your shoes, I think, whether you're in a central campus unit or whether you support faculty directly in a research center or at a school and college. And I'm really glad to see the agenda today. It looks excellent. I love the focus on collaboration. I do think that's what it's all about. Certainly big new things in research, the really big money, the most exciting stuff, is increasingly interdisciplinary. It's connecting people across different schools and colleges, across different disciplines, in new ways that didn't exist before. So your work is obviously very important in all of that, whether that's helping us with compliance and making sure that we aren't exposed to risk and liability, that your faculty don't have problems somewhere down the road. But research administration is much more, of course, than just compliance and rules and checking. Really fundamentally, I think it's about support. How do you get your PIs what they need to be successful? How do you help them get their business done in a way that won't be a problem? And sometimes that goes unnoticed in what all of you do, but that's huge. That's what makes our faculty successful. That's what makes research possible and innovation possible. So one thing I've been really impressed with so far in my time here is the model that we have put together in RSP and for research administration. I love that it's combining the pre-award and post-award support for research. I shed a single tear when in my second or third week we moved RSP from my area to Marcia's area. I don't hold a grudge, it's okay. But I'm really excited to keep that model together and keep innovating on that. And of course, I'll be a strong partner to Kim, and we'll keep you very close, whether you like it or not. Okay, well, I could do the 50-minute version of this, but time is running short. So let me just say, if you guys see me out and about on campus or at festival buying groceries, please stop me and say hello. I really would love to meet you. And okay, thanks so much for all you do for the university, for research, and for our PIs. Thank you very much.
Not one word about motorcycles did I hear. He said very quietly, they're not Harleys. There's a disappointment in our lives, but it's a little, we'll and get over it. Now, I have the great pleasure to introduce Dr. Marcia Malik, who is the Vice Chancellor for Research and Graduate Education here. Many of you know Marcia because she has been on campus for a while. She actually was drawn to Madison following a bachelor's degree in psychology and sociology here. Then she left for a while to do a PhD at Brandeis, did an associate professorship at Boston University, and then in 1988 she came back to join us and to stay here. Since that time, she served as interim director of the Wisconsin Institutes for Discovery, and as a seminal appointment as the director of the Weissman Institute. Marcia knows as much about interdisciplinary research as anyone on campus. She is, in fact, a researcher's researcher. She has had multiple grants from multiple agencies, and she understands research from the ground up. I think we all have something to learn from that experience. She is a natural advocate for research, which makes this an ideal position for her to be the chief research officer at Madison. Now, I have heard no rumors about Marcia and motorcycles. I do not know if she likes either pink sandals or pimento cheese sandwiches, but I do know that she's going to talk to you and express some appreciation for the work that we all do in this room to support research. Marcia?
Well, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? So it's great to be here. I was so impressed when I learned that the registration for this event filled up in record time, like 10 minutes, something like that. Yeah, and it had this be the first ever symposium for research administrators on campus, I think is fantastic, and it bodes well for the future, and there's a need for continuing events like this. And I hope to participate with you in many of them. And I'd like to officially welcome RSP to the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Research and Graduate Education, which is, not an elegant title. Someone said to me, you need to get a new moniker. Moniker, I think, is an old word. But we're not going to get a new moniker. So that, we just have to practice the order of those letters over and over again. And so, I was going to begin by talking a little bit about my experience when I first came to campus as a faculty member, but as Kim was introducing me, I realized that I should go back a little further to when I was an undergraduate. And I was an undergraduate here, as Kim said, and I had one year, my sophomore year, I had all my classes on Tuesday and Thursday, and I had the opportunity to get a job. And so I went to the Wisconsin Student Association, and I looked at what they had then, a job board, how times have changed. And I applied for a job as a receptionist for a private detective, and for which I was completely unqualified, of course. And that didn't work out. He did some illegal things that made me very nervous. So I quit, and then I went back to the Wisconsin Student Association, and I saw that they had an opening for, to be a waitress at the Maple Bluff Country Club. And so I applied for that, and I was also completely unqualified for that, and that did not work out. They said to me after one day, we will not be ordering you a uniform. Go back to the U, which I did. And then the third job I applied for was to be a research assistant for my psychology professor. And that worked, and that felt right. It lasted for the rest of my undergraduate years here, and I think that was the beginning of my interaction with research administration. So I want to thank all of you for saving me from the wrong professions that man. I also want to thank you for what you do to make this $1.1 billion research enterprise work. Every dollar of that amount goes through your hands, not just once. When you follow a dollar around this room, it keeps going. And it has to keep on going. And were it not for, as Kim said, all of us working together, those dollars would stumble or never come in to begin with. So thank you so much for that. So let me tell you a little bit about my background. I was asked to do that, and this time I'll really focus on my experience as a faculty member and as a principal investigator for research grants. So I was, as Kim said, on the faculty of Boston University. I lived in a great neighborhood. I had 2 children. They were in a great school district. I had no reason to come back to Madison other than it seemed there was an opportunity here. It wasn't a sort of obvious opportunity, but I joined the faculty because it gave me the chance to work in an interdisciplinary research center, which was the Weissman Center. And I thought that even though I had grants already, my research would be taken to a new level by being in an environment like the Weissman Center. And so I thought, what do you have to lose? Let me go out and take a look at the place. I haven't been there since I was an undergraduate, which was before the Weissman Center was built. That's how old I am. I don't believe that one has nothing to lose because all of a sudden my life took a different turn. And I've been so happy about that ever since. And it's because of the research environment in this university, all of you in this room, that I would say that happened. And I have never regretted leaving Boston University and coming here to Madison. And one of the great things about being the director of the Waisman Center, which after a number of years as a faculty member there, one of the great reasons for being the director, one of the great benefits I received was learning about researchers, research administration, and units all over campus, because Waisman has faculty from 27 different departments in almost all the schools and colleges on campus. And then you realize there is no one research administration, because each school and college, or maybe even each department, has a little bit different way of doing things, and we all have to work together, recognizing local culture. So, as Kim mentioned, I've been a PI during these last 28 years on campus of a variety of types of grants, so I've learned a lot, a tremendous amount. These include training grants, and I had an RO3, a small research grant from the NIH, and RO1s, and the core grant, and projects and program projects, and I gave sub-awards, I received sub-awards, I cried about sub-awards, you know. But it's really given me an appreciation for the complexity of research administration and all that you do, and again, I want to say thank you. So I've also been asked to say a bit about the research administrators who have been supportive of me personally, because it really is a very personal relationship. And of course, if I really delved into this, I would exceed my time on the program, and I don't want to do that. But let me just say a few words about who they are today and who they were when I first came here. So the main person I interact with at Waisman is Kay Smith. Many of you knew her when she was the administrator of the Aging Institute. And Kay works with me and several others, and I met her when she and I we were much younger. I was first on campus, and she was working as a research administrator at the Waisman Center in the Trace Center. And so one of the things I'd like to observe with you is the longevity of careers of research administrators. And although research administrators may move from one position to another on campus, this long period of time where Kay and I have known each other, and I've known many of you in this room, makes it possible to knit together the research enterprise on campus because of your career commitments to the university. It's not just Kay, but Kay is really critical. She develops my budgets during the pre-award phase. She monitors my spending during the post-award phase. She administers the T32 program. She designed the outreach program to include to recruit underrepresented minorities, and she's done it very effectively. She does this at 40% time. She interacts with the postdocs in the T32 program, and she provides sage advice about many of the important issues. And I know all of that is true for all of you today. And I also included my research administration team, Renee Maku, who is our research program manager, and she was a freshman in 1988 and started working on data entry for me as a student hourly. And here we are 28 years later. Her children are grown, my children are grown, and we still work together very closely. She's a research program manager, and she's the focal point of our work. And now that I'm in Bascom, Nick Novak, I'm part of his team, he's part of my team, and I'm super grateful for his guidance, because we work together on what's just what is the appropriate level of effort I should have on grants, given this job, right? And of course, I would get it wrong. But let me just say a few words about the past and then stop talking. So when I came here in 1988, I was bringing grants with me, and they had to, I'm not sure I remember all the exact details, but I think I was funded by 2 foundations with overlapping scopes of work. It's true. No one at Boston University noticed that. And I wasn't sure I knew that was a problem. And the research administrator at Waisman at that point was Elmer Ramthan. And Elmer was an extremely experienced, wonderful guy. I came to his office with little scraps of paper and my own calculations about what I would do about this overlap problem. And there wasn't any federal funding in this particular program. And I said, how am I going to figure it out? And he said, how am I going to find out what the faculty members earn who are going to be new collaborators? I had all these questions and scraps of paper and bad math, probably. And he just took it all away, and he said, we'll take care of that for you. Here at Wisconsin, you don't do that, we do that. And he said to me, you have a very nice program. Those were his words, and I thought that was so nice. And instead of saying, go away, which is what my experience was before, he said, come here. So during my career, the rules have changed, and research administration gets ever more complex, and we all have to work together to understand things like, effort reporting and financial conflict of interest and the new uniform guidance. And so I turn to you for continued help in that way. But I'm very glad to be part of your team as the Vice Chancellor for Research and Graduate Education. Just as it is for you, no 2 days are the same for me. Lord knows what's going to happen when I get back to Bascom, but we'll find that out then. And I don't want to interfere at all with your program. I wish I could stay all day today because I would like to hear from you. So at some other point when you don't have a full, really interesting day, let me hear your thoughts about how our office can reach out more effectively and work more effectively with you. We're so happy that RSP is part of our team now, and your work keeps us as a top research university in these really difficult times here at Wisconsin. So thank you so much. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Marcia. And now we are moving on to the rest of the day. I'm getting off the stage. I can relax. And I'm going to turn it over to Melanie Hebel, who deserves a great deal of recognition. And she's going to tell us what to expect as we are here for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. There are some people standing in the back. It looks like if you have an empty seat at your table, if you could just raise your hand so they know that they can move forward. There's an empty table right in the front, too, for the latest comers. Well, I'm so thrilled. I look out at all of you and I think, not only did you sign up for this event, but you showed up for this event. So I am very grateful for that. We have been so thrilled with the overall interest in the symposium from day one. As it was mentioned, the day that we announced the event, we filled to capacity within 2 hours. We were able to increase our capacity not once, but twice, and still, as of last week, we had over 50 people on our waiting list. So thank you for your interest in the symposium, and thank you for coming today. I'd like to give thanks to some of the people who have made this event possible. First, Kim Moreland and RSP leadership. Also, the Symposium Advisory Planning Committee, Sandy Fowler, Tammy Kuhn-Martin, Debbie Meltzer, Nick Novak, Christy Schultz, and Bonnie Jean Zitsky. Also, thank you to all of the people who will be joining us. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. Also, thank you to all of the people who will be joining us on the stage today as presenters and the staff and the volunteers who are going to be taking care of all of the minor details today. Without all of these people, we wouldn't have had this unique opportunity to get into one room like this as we are right now.